I want to see all the times George shows up. It's like, okay, well, now we got all of just George. Just want to see Duo Jet.
Nice.
If I say I want to hold your hand, we can say here's all the sessions where I want to hold your hand shows up, and then what people were playing at that session.
Man, just wait until we get to Obla Di Obla Da.
Oh my gosh.
If you click that question mark, would that give you every single time we're not sure of something?
Yep.
That's funny.
Man.
And it only shows the person we were confused about.
No more cross-referencing between multiple books.
Hey everyone, welcome to a special edition of Gear There and Everywhere. It's a bit pared down. I have Ryan here, and we have Grant joining us again after many months away, because we had you on for Now and Then, I believe, right?
It was Now and Then, yeah, which was a blast, but...
That was fun. It was a lot of people, though.
To this.
So we have a little bit more of you this time. So this is an interesting special edition, because Ryan is taking us through some new software that he got that we've been having discussions, and we wanted to figure out a way to get a timeline of all the recording dates of the Beatles, all the songs, all of the gear that was used, at least our opinion of what gear was used. And Ryan's figured out a special way to show it all on a browser and just organize it. You can describe this better than me, Ryan.
Yeah, basically, I had wanted for a long time, like, there's various books that are of, varying degrees of quality, where you have, and there's websites like the BeatlesEbooks.com, that's a pretty good one, and Beatles Bible has, like, okay stuff in it for listings, and some of this is just, like, we've learned new things as new pictures have emerged and things like that, but there has never really been a definitive source for, like, which guitar was played by who on each recording session, and, like, each overdub, and each song in general. And I thought, like, we seem to have a decent amount of authority on the subject, and especially as a cohesive group we do, because we can say, like, one person says one thing and one person says another, and it's okay, we got the disagreement, as long as we establish that a disagreement exists somewhere, and we can keep that as a future reference, so we don't have to, like, go hunt through, like, an old book, right, or, like, try to, like, I remember some guy in some old YouTube video said this one time.
Right.
And so
even
we just
if we
have
disagree, we have, like, we can say we all know it's not this guitar or this, and I've actually created, like, a list of my own over time of what I think was recorded on each song, but not in this way where you can actually, you'll see,
visualize the whole thing. Yeah. So let me show you what I have so far. The software is called Aeon. I think it's just pronounced Eon, but Aeon.
It's not free, Ryan, is it?
It's not free. So the way... Well, it would be free for our users, but I think...
It's free for, like, viewing, yeah.
It's free to view files. I think the way we would end up doing this is we would maybe make videos showing us constructing this thing, and then if people wanted to, like, pay to get the file, we maybe, like, $5 or something. I don't know what we would do, because it's going to be a lot of work for us to make this. But I think the way, I can just show you the way it works is you basically make these events, and you can have child events. And so the way I've done, and you could tag, I have people here. So if you look at, like, let's go to, I put the first, like, 2 albums worth of stuff in here. So if we go to this, basically what I did was I copied the event data here from Mark Lewison's book, and it says, like, recording Please Please Me on this date, and you can see we have this timeline at the top, and what's really cool is we can zoom in as much as we want, so we can see specific days, and then this will have, like, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on this day, and this is Please Please Me and Ask Me Why, and then what I did was I made child events for each of the Beatles, and then we can see, okay, we have John tagged here and a 1962 J160E tagged here with John. And then for George, same thing. And then for Paul, the 61 Hofner 500 one.
Can I stop you there? Because what is Tip of My Tongue? I don't even know what that is.
That's the one that Tommy quickly
Another
did.
Lennon-McCartney. Apparently the arrangement, I think this is from Tune In.
Never heard
it was them on their usual stuff and everything, except John was on maracas. They, like, decided they needed that.
There's no
audio.
There's
no audio of it. But
yeah,
Tommy Quickly, his name is Quigley, but he thought a stage name of Tommy Quickly was better for some reason. He did a recording of this, which it's not great, but it has Paul essence to it.
Yep.
So,
Very
but yeah,
interesting.
there we go. There's an example, prime example of why this type of thing should exist. We can see what kind of stuff was happening on each day.
Grant, I was going to ask you a question. Have you ever come across a definitive list that shows the gear used that you actually thought was, worth looking at?
No.
Exactly.
No, I've never.
There are some out there.
And there's been plenty of, debates in various groups and everything over the years that have helped us accumulate so much of the knowledge that we have now. But, like Beatles Bible and everything, too, just as an example. I'm not saying this to criticize it or anything, or the site,
Well, it's
anything
not a
like
very
that.
accurate list.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure a ton of the people that contribute and say, "Oh man, it had to be his casino because he used it in '68." They're not musicians, which is okay, but it's like I'm not gonna take it seriously. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against them, nothing against people wanting to figure out, what they were using, everything, but when it's
This is our kind of jam because we're the nerds that actually dive into this stuff.
well,
so.
and we use this stuff too. Again, that's not to be said as a put down or anything. It's just I know you guys have had it plenty of times where let's face it, all of us have a decent amount of the gear where you have this idea in your head that, oh yeah, this song, it was this guitar. Well, you get the guitar and then you realize, are you kidding me? I can't get it to sound like that, and then it
Yeah.
sends you off down the rabbit hole.
It's
where-
crazy how much more I understand like bass tones now that I have like a P bass and a jazz bass, and it's like, oh, this makes sense now. Like I can see how this is this thing, or this
Right.
definitely isn't this thing because it doesn't have this type of tone.
right.
And then sometimes, obviously, you still have no clue. But
Yeah.
the thing that's really cool about this is obviously we have this sliding time scale, and events sort of stack vertically if there's not enough space here to fit them all in. So we could
Right.
zoom in real far and see them like this. So I did two different versions of this just as an example. I did one where like you could see the whole session written out here and then what they used on that session, or you could break it up into like individual things within the session with specific songs going on. And so we could put specific song recordings. We haven't quite done that here yet, but we definitely could do that on this. And then below this big box, I have non-recording stuff, like when the control room stuff was going on, and
Monitor mixing and
single
things like
releases and monitor mixes and album releases and all that kind of stuff. So we get a full timeline of the Beatles, and then that means you could also put stuff like George buys the Tennessean, and we could put like a range of like this date to this date somewhere in there.
Well, because you were showing me earlier too, right? How you can like filter by
Yeah, so
the
that's the
person,
real
by
magic.
the instruments,
So
and
if
everything.
I move over here, like, give me an example of what kind of filtering you want to see.
Let's see. Every time George used a duo jet.
Okay, so if I go here to filtering, I can say I want to see all the times George shows up. It's like, okay, well, now we got all of just George. And then I can say, okay, I just want to see the duo jet. It's like, okay, now we
Nice.
have all the times he used the duo jet, and I can zoom out as much as I want.
Ryan, what is the green versus the purple? I don't understand that.
So that was just, all this was I had a big event up here, which I just called Please Please Me recording sessions, and I ranged that from June 1st of 1962 all the way to March 13th when From Me to You was recorded, because I just sort of blocked them as From Me to You being the last thing in the sort of Please
So it
Please
is
Me
all
sessions.
one timeline.
Right.
You just broke it up into different.
And the whole reason behind this is so that I could then later, if I get rid of this filtering here, so you can see that's all in that session, and then
with
I
the
have with the
Beatles,
Beatles
yeah.
sessions. The whole thing is you can see it specific to like a certain range of time, and you can just put a different color for that if you want.
So if you because right now this is mostly, I guess, like recording sessions, but let's say we wanted to do like live shows, could we theoretically like
Yep.
create a different timeline?
You could stick it
With-
all in here still.
Right, because you just filter it out and you only do live instead of.
We're gonna tag all the ones that are recording session stuff with like a recording session tag,
Filter,
and then we could
yeah.
tag all the stuff that's just a live performance with live performance tag, and then we could filter by that as well if we knew like when specific guitars were used. And then we could have like, let's say the first time we know that the SG was used in a live recording or something like that.
And then there, I see at the top there's like spreadsheets as well. Does that correspond with the timeline as well?
Yeah, so basically under the hood, what's happening, if I get rid of these filters here,
Here we
under
go.
the hood, what's going on is all this data, when we input it, is getting put into a big spreadsheet. And it
Nice.
looks really awful in this interface because, like, you know, this is like not meant to be looked at like this. And then you can also see relationships between things. This is like,
Wow.
because I have like so many dimensions going on, this is not especially useful to our use case, but it is still kind
At
of
least
interesting to
visually,
look
it
at
doesn't-
potentially.
Yeah.
It's all very interactive and everything. And this would be even if you were viewing it for free, you could do all this stuff, right?
Yeah, and there's some other ways to mess with it, but the most useful one I think is definitely this timeline. And again, if someone in the audience has a better software or some other way they think we should be doing this, like definitely let us know, because this is the best I could come up with.
Ryan was starting this on Google Spreadsheets.
Yes,
so-
Google Spreadsheets is not good for this. But like an example of something you could do, which is really cool to me, it's like, let's say, oh, I just want to see the times George Martin played on something. It's like, okay, well, here he played piano, here he played this, and then you can see specific things about what he was playing on. And maybe as an example, why don't we just like add a piece of data to this so you can see how that would go. So
Because you said you could also add photographs, right? to
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
dates
Let
as
me
well.
find
that could
one
be
real
really
quick.
helpful.
So I believe it's September 12th. What are we on? September 11th. It's
Which
think
there's
this-
pics from that day too, I think.
yeah. So I gotta. There's a way you can filter what data is being seen. So we could say like, when I look at this thing, I don't want to see the people tagged, and you can see how that changes it. Or I don't want to see the song thing. I don't have that really on here yet, or I don't want to see guitars for whatever reason. But one thing you can turn on is images, and this is an image here that I added where. Let's see if I can get this to pull up. I can't remember. Yeah, there you go. I don't know exactly how this would work for someone viewing it, but it knows like the location of this image on my PC. Maybe this stuff is all embedded in the actual thing. We'll have to experiment, but we can also, like Sam just said, we can tag an image. So this is like on this day of recording, I tagged John with the 325, and we can add this image of him playing the 325 on that exact day.
Which let's talk about this pic too. Would it be even worth adding that there's a fuzz tone?
Yeah, so
Right
that's another
there.
thing we could do. We could say tag it with, we could add like pedals
Pedals.
as another thing we could tag on things, and microphones and amps. Like there's really no limit to what we could add on this. It might make the spreadsheet or the timeline get kind of complicated, but that's the whole reason for it.
But you
And
can
zoom in
filter
and
it
stuff.
out.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can filter so that it's not so crazy to look at.
I think it's super helpful. It's kind of combining all the different websites that we already go to, because we'll go to Beatles Bible, we'll go to the Facebook recording photos, albums, so now we don't have to jump around, at least for I guess the point I'm trying to make is, how could this be useful for us to use in our podcast? And I think it would be during our recording, because we can say, wait a minute, what was that date again? And what was that picture from?
And we already have stuff where we've said something in a previous episode, and then we've already somewhat forgotten about it. And because we haven't really noted it down, and we're not going back and like rewatching a ton of old episodes a whole lot. So it'd be good for us to like put this somewhere where we can actually see it and then refer back to it. And we could put like a little note on our piece of data that says like, oh, the source of info for this is like, we discussed this on this date and we came to this conclusion. Or we could even tag like a question mark for all the songs where like we don't know what this person played, so we tag that person with a question mark for that day.
Yep.
You just have to log a lot of info. Right?
Yeah, so that's
You have a
the
lot
main
of work.
question of this video. This is sort of like an intro to this idea of making this timeline is this something you guys want to see? And if it is, like, let us know in the comments so we can like have the best idea of whether we should make videos actually showing us making this timeline, because I think if I was a fan of this, I would say like I want to see your decision making process. Like even if it's something for us, like obviously we pick some of the harder topics on the podcast where we say like, is this thing a jazz bass or a bass six or something like that, and it's like controversial and we're not really sure. There's stuff that we take as granted that maybe the fans are like less knowledgeable about because like it's newer information that we know about, or
But
something
it happens
like
to
that.
all of us. I mean, Grant,
Yeah.
has there been a time that you've changed your mind kind of recently on a piece of gear? That was used?
100%. And I think that I know that you and I have talked about this at least, how it's kind of beautiful in a sense that we're probably never going to know 100% down to the T the entire thing, which that's part of what keeps us going. That's part of the magic. That's part of, whatever you want to say. But the point being is it's just going to be so nice that moving forward, we'll be able to have something like this, and we wouldn't have to go back and say, oh, well, we used to think it was this because of A, B, C, and D, but now we think it's this because of D, E, and F. It's just, hey, we changed it.
Mm-hmm.
We
You
changed
could literally
it. You can
say
listen to
that-
the episode if you
Yeah,
want to hear
like-
why we did that, but
Grant on August 10th thought that this song was a Rickenbacker, and then the next day he, for some reason, changed his mind. We can mark all of that.
Yeah, so maybe just as an example, should we put in another session in here so you can see what that would
Yeah,
look
let's
like?
log
yeah,
something.
yeah.
So let me turn off images here. And then I'm going to pull up Mark Lewison's thing. And then the next date I don't have yet is October 17th.
Big day.
So this is the day they did I Want to Hold Your Hand. And this boy. Oh my goodness. Who knew copying and pasting would be the hardest part of this?
Almost.
Good enough. I'll do both later. So then I can say new event, and we'll paste this in here. And then I will set the date as October, it was the 17th,
17th, yeah.
and it's
Thursday.
2:30 p.m. is the earliest time here. So I'll say 2:30. And then the latest time, it's all at one, or it's two sessions, so we'll say 10 p.m. for the end of this. And we could break this up into multiple sessions, depending on how detailed we wanted to get, but we're keeping it a little bit simpler just for this.
Yeah.
And then I can say I want to, I can say that I want to make the parent of this this is a little ugly, but I can make the parent of this though with the Beatles sessions. And then
So now it's part of the main timeline for
yeah,
that
so now it's
album.
inside here, and we'll change this to purple just to make it match. And so then what I'll do is I'll create a child item, and we'll say Paul. And
This is very good because they were the kids.
The children. George Martin was the
Yeah.
father figure.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then so now let's say like, and for this we're right now because we're just doing it as everything in this day. Well, let's go ahead and break it up a little more actually. Let's just to be real crazy. We'll say there's 3 songs on this day. You really got a hold on me. So the other ones don't really have it this detailed yet. Let me
Right.
actually just delete these.
You need ring.
But this is maybe how we would do it if we were going to make it the most detailed. Put this boy and I want to hold your hand. And actually, we don't have specific times for any of these, so that we'll just leave them like this. And then inside, I want to hold your hand. We'll make John and George.
Must be a shortcut for all this, right?
Yeah, well, there's a few things they could add. I think there's a way for me to paste stuff, but I don't. I'm still very new to this, so I don't want to mess with that right now.
Which
But we'll tag Paul. So
just putting this out there right now, big day, not only because of the songs that they were doing, the first day that Paul's recording with the 63 Hofner.
oh, good point. I didn't actually remember that. Okay, so let's
That
say
is big.
I want to hold your hand. So you think everything on this day that Paul was touching was with the 63 Hofner?
Most
right?
likely. I
Okay,
would
so
say. Yeah.
I don't have that in here yet, so we can add it as a new guitar. Let's see. I gotta remember how to do that. So I go to this tab, I think. New
we
guitar.
could start we could start
1960.
debating stuff like, okay, did he break a string on the 63? Because that would mean the 61 is on the. We won't do that, right?
So I
now.
just added 1963 Hofner as a new thing, and we're gonna say, I gotta figure out where to put you guys. We're gonna say he plays the 1963 Hofner, and then George. Well, now this I've really
Well,
picked a
could've-
controversial one.
The Rick 425. Do you have that in there?
I don't have it in here yet. Are we pretty
We
confident
don't know
on that
for
one?
sure, though.
Pretty
I'm
confident.
not.
Sam's not
I'm
confident.
still undecided.
So, well, this is a good time. Let's put a question mark in here.
We can say Grant and Sam had a heated argument.
So for this one, we'll say George plays Rickenbacker 425, but we'll also add a question mark.
Question mark too.
And then we'll put in the notes for this one, Sam isn't convinced
I
It's
sound like an asshole
the
now.
425. And then John, definitely the 58, 325, right?
Yeah.
Had to be, right?
I mean, I've heard people debate that, like, oh, it could be a J160. I'm pretty sure. This is the other thing, too, where, again, like I said earlier, the hands-on experience that we all have collectively, too.
Good at keeping each other in check with these things.
Well, keeping each other in check. And, you know, like, as an example, I have never played a Rickenbacker 425 in my life. I've never had hands-on experience with it. Every time that I've heard I Want to Hold Your Hand done on one of them, I think, wow, that sounds really, really close. But again, I can't say that I play. I don't. You guys.
So this one's also interesting because I would say that George is using the J160 on this boy. Grant, what do you
But then
think?
there's the thing at the end.
I
of
would,
the slide, right?
Yeah, I would agree. J160.
I think it's. I don't think there's any slide. I think it's you're just hearing some weird sort of string buzz as he's like sliding up. I guess. Not like a. Yeah, I guess that's what you
You
meant.
chose a really controversial day.
I really did. Sam, are you? You wanted me to put a question mark on this one too?
I think it could be the gent.
Okay.
I'm gonna,
And it
at
could
least
be.
at the end.
Yeah, and who knows? It could be a deal, too, where, like, he did the rhythm track
I'm gonna say
on the
this and stick
J160
a
and did
question
the
mark on
dub
this one too.
on the Gen.
And we'll say
'Cause-
Sam says it might
Very
be
random.
the gent.
Because very random. I never thought of this until we started talking about it, how it's a weird buzz where occasionally when they were playing acoustics, they would bump into the mic stand if they were singing at the same time, or just if they were standing there playing, like the end of back naturally. Prime example of that. On the fade out, don't, and then you just hear because one of them totally, because we won't get into that, who's playing acoustic on that, but they bump into the mic stand. So that, wow. I never
Whole nother
considered
can of
that.
worms.
Right.
Now,
right.
do you guys happen to know what was happening for You Really Got a Hold on Me Take 12? Is that an overdub? Let's see.
Off the, I think it is.
Let me just
don't quote me.
Well, we got the book here, so we can go ahead and check. So, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, they tried a take of it. Go to the end of
I
that.
Want to Hold Your Hand. Also on this day, the Beatles tried one more take, If You Got a Hold of Me, then gave up, and the group recorded more speech. So this one, we don't really know.
Sounds like not the final version.
Definitely
So-
not.
I'm just going to leave that one blank for now.
Yeah.
And I think that seems good.
A good example too, Ryan, is like on Julia. Like I was exploring a bit on my cover. It's like John starts take 1 and take 2
Yeah,
with
that's a
certain
good thing to
guitar,
know.
and then switches over to like
Yeah,
question
so
mark.
if we wanted to go real crazy with it, we could break this up into individual takes because there's stuff like on There's a Place, George switches
I'm a
from the
Loser,
jet or
too.
from the
Yeah.
Duojet to the J160 on, I don't know, take 7 or something like that.
Well, and like for the most part, while we're on it, for the most part, the entire October 17th session is available on bootlegs and everything. There's like every take of I Want to Hold Your Hand, I'm pretty sure. Not so much on this boy, but
Let me point out another thing we can do here is for each event, like let's say I Want to Hold Your Hand here, I can add attachments and links. So I can say I want to link, let's go to YouTube and say
hey, Malibu.
there's no session for this, is there? Like we don't have session audio of this.
No, we do.
Do we?
Yeah, I do at least.
Well, if it's on YouTube.
Oh,
Or if
on you.
it's somewhere else.
Okay, well, that's one thing.
I don't know if it would be. But if there's something we could link, like let's say we just
There is a
take-
This Boy outtake. You
Okay,
can
yeah, let's do
that.
that. This boy session. Okay, that's
Oh.
not.
You could do take 2 or something. I don't know. Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Take.
Well, this
Oh,
isn't
that's fumbles.
complete, but we'll go with this for now.
Oh, there's take 1, I think I saw.
Yeah. So something like this, we could say, copy that link, and then go to this boy, add a link, paste this in, and give it a title of like take 12 and 13 of this boy, and I can add that as a link, and we could click on it. It'll bring us out here. That's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah.
And I wonder if that's another thing we might be able to toggle on here. I'm not sure.
Oh, like attachments and for
Yeah, that
audio
might be a
and-
little much. I don't know if you can do that, but that's like fantastic. Like I could just click on the song. And the other thing I was gonna do to make this a little bit more obvious is I can say I have an item type called a song, and we'll add these 3. I want to hold these. I don't have these really on here yet. I want to hold your hand, and you really got a hold on me.
Oh, that's
then now what I
always
can
on
do-
there. Okay.
Is I can tag this. Let's see. I'm trying to remember how I turned this on. More relationships, song. So records. I want to hold your hand. And I
What
can't
does
remember-
that do?
So basically what this means, let me just add these other ones real quick. Now I might need to
Theoretically,
put
Ryan,
it. I
if
might
you,
need to put this on the specific person as well.
Mm.
But basically what this means is that when I filter stuff, I can go and say I want to filter by song. So I want to only see stuff related to I Want to Hold Your Hand. And so if a song has like a bunch of overdub sessions, we could tag the song each time.
Perfect.
But the way we would actually really need to do this is we would probably want to stick it here on each of these child events. Hopefully they maybe will update part of this so that this can get a little less clunky looking, but it does what we want. even
Because
though
the
it's a little bit-
software is pretty new, you were saying, right?
It's actually not new. I thought it
Oh,
was,
really?
but it's been around for like 10 years, but I think it's
wow.
only like a handful of people that actually work on it and update it.
Gotcha.
I think this software is mainly for people who are like writing books and trying to keep timeline of characters and like lawyers. This is a big thing for them to keep track of
Historians,
something.
I guess.
So now we can see if I say I want to hold your hand, here's all the, obviously there's only one session for this one, but we can say here's all the sessions where I want to hold your hand shows up and then what people were playing at that session. And so let's say later on, especially when there's a lot more overdubs, there might be like 5 different sessions or something that are all dedicated to the same song, and we could see just that song sort of as it goes through different sessions.
Man, just wait until we get to Obla Di Obla Da.
Oh my gosh.
Ryan, theoretically, if you click that question mark beside each one, would that give you every single time we're not sure of something?
Yep, that's what that would mean. So if I said guitar question mark every time that we were confused about a guitar part, and it only shows the person we were confused about.
Got it.
Man.
That's pretty cool.
So I think it's fantastic, and I hope the audience thinks it's fantastic as well. But maybe you guys have, like I said, other recommendations for how we could make this cleaner, or other software that maybe does this already in a better way or something that I don't know about. That would be awesome to hear about it. But mainly just comment if you think this is really cool and you want to see more, or if you would be interested in, like, if we actually made videos of us building this timeline that were, like, you know, let's say each an hour long or something like that, and we get through as much as we do in an hour.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, it's a tool, it's something we want to make anyway, so, you know, might as well make videos of it if people want to see it.
Well, man, there's so many times when I'm listening to the podcast and I'm out in the middle of our property and I'm like saying, oh, yeah, it was this day, it was that. But then I realize I can't. But
And the other thing that's great about this is, let's say we mention a specific document and we don't have it. Like, for example, we talked about in the Hootenanny episode, the insurance document from 1969 that you guys can't seem to find. But if someone ever finds it, they could let us know, and we could stick it in as an attachment, and then all that stuff just exists in the same spot for future recordings and future looking at it.
well,
So-
no more cross-referencing between multiple books, multiple websites. We'll do all that because we like it. But let's face it, not everybody is anywhere near as geeky as us, so.
Oh, this is very geeky, but I'm afraid this is going to turn into a Paul is dead timeline, and we're going to show his lips on this date versus his lips on another date.
Oh, we could get into
Definitely
that.
could be.
Dude, that's why the tone changes from 67 to...
Dude,
Billy
Paul's
Six.
tooth
Yeah.
being broken
William
off, that
Shears.
totally changes the tone.
Well, yeah, because it affects, you know, the vibration
Yeah.
coming out of the...
Yeah, man. He gets it. But, well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little snippet here of a thing we might start doing. And I can't say it enough. Let us know if this is something you want to keep seeing more of. So we can start making them if you want.
And thanks for joining us, Grant, for this short chat.
Thank you for having me. Gonna be a blast, hopefully.
So hopefully we'll see you in the next one.
Absolutely.
Have a nice day.
Bye, guys.
All right, see you, boys.